We are live in the announcer's booth with Travis Stone, the announcer of the Kentucky Derby in Churchill Downs. He is currently getting ready to call race 4. Travis, you want to say hello to the fans?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Oaks Day.
We'll be watching Travis call this race, and then if you have a question for Travis about calling races or anything else, feel free to add it in the comments, and we'll get as many of those asked out. But Travis, if you want to, while you're prepping, if you could just let the people in on what you're doing here.
Sure. So the jockeys all wear silks. I don't know if you can see it, but I color the silks that the jockeys are wearing. And the goal is to memorize those and call the race without having to look at this cheat sheet that hangs around my neck. These are some of these horses I've seen before, which makes it a little bit easier, but we'll see what we can do. She can't sing. Misty Blue, Misty 2, Tipsy Gal, Ocean Breeze, Palamita, Golden, Palamita, Irish Willow, Palamita, Golden, Ocean Breeze, Tipsy Gal. She can't sing. Misty Blue, Misty 2.
Travis, one KY Wildcat fan on Twitter and Periscope wants to know what happens if there's heavy rain or clouds and you can't see very well. Does it change your job?
That's a problem. If I can't see, you sort of improvise and add some filler, maybe add a little bit of humor. I've called some races in fog before where I couldn't see them at all. But if it's raining, but you can still see them, it just becomes that much more difficult because the jockey silks just get all sorts of muddy. And it just becomes hard. It's the worst part of it. It's the last 2 derbies, it was pouring rain and foggy and dark and no fun. I'm glad we're having some sunny weather this year.
And we're going to be live with Travis tomorrow as well, and we'll talk more specifically about the Derby race. But if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask them now. Do you have a favorite silk? Dustin wants to know.
Any silk that's recognizable. So famous silks, like this horse Ocean Breeze is a famous silk, so they're easy to recognize. Horses have reached the starting gate. It's post time. All right. Let's go. She can't sing. Golding, Palamita, Irish Willow, Tipsy Gal, Miss T2. Waiting for Tipsy Gal and Irish Willow. They're in the gate, and they're off. Good start for Goulding toward the outside. Palamita is also there. Misty 2 showing speed, and down at the inside is Misty Blue. 4 of them, and the scramble is on early as they head down the backstretch, and Misty 2 comes on through to take a narrow lead. Tugging at the bit is Palamita, up to be second on the outside, and Misty Blue toward the rail races in third. Goulding comes away fourth. Ocean Breeze is now fifth. She can sing down inside in sixth. Tipsy Gal near the back in seventh, and Irish Willow's the last of them all. Moving for the far turn, the opening quarter in 21 2/5 seconds. It's Misty 2, the leader by half a length with 3 furlongs to go. But Palamita, Tyler Gaffleone keyed up on the outside, second and getting closer. Ocean Breeze putting in a bid, 3 wide and moving up. Right behind is Misty Blue down inside the field. It's the top of the stretch. It's Misty 2 turning for home in front, turning for home on a 2-length lead. Now it's 3. Misty 2 trying to give them the slip with 1 furlong to go. Ocean Breeze trying to close in down the center of the track. Palamita boxes on as well. She can sing in behind horses with Misty Blue, but they're at the 16th. Misty 2 is going. Misty 2 rambles home to win it by 5. Palamita held second. It's tight for third. Ocean Breeze, or She Can Sing. There we go.
Good job. Everyone's very impressed.
Thank you.
Shanna from Facebook wants to know, do you ever get nervous about calling a race? I'm sure there might be a big one that sometimes you get nervous about.
Yeah, I mean, it's, a race like the Derby is very nerve-wracking. In fact, most of the day and the week is about just getting as prepared as possible to eliminate as many questions as possible and just know those horses inside and out. Day in and day out races, no, not really. It's you need to get used to it. First race of the meet, if I've been off for a few months, yeah, just because you want to get back and get going. Big races though, like with anything, it's more eyes and more ears. There's definitely some nerves. If you don't get nervous, it's probably a bad sign.
Michael wants to know if there's a call that you're most proud of.
I would say I had never been to the Kentucky Derby before, and so the first time I was going to call it was 2015, and when American Pharoah won, and so that was just a wild experience. I'd never been to the Derby, going to have to call the Derby, and the call went great, and that's probably my most proud moment as a race caller.
Here's a good one from, and if I butcher this name, I'm sorry, Acelia on Facebook, and it's, do you have to practice some names that are harder to say while you're calling them? The tough tongue twisters.
Yeah. I mean, and even still, they can still get you a little bit. It's they can be challenging. Like for the Derby, I do this thing where there's going to be 16 horses in the Derby. I will randomize them and just whip through names, and then randomize them and whip through names, and try and find back-to-back names that could potentially cause trouble, and just try and mentally get prepared for that and think about it and force myself to be a little more clear, have a little more elocution, and just get it right. But even still, I'm a human and things happen, and sometimes the tongue and the lips and the mouth don't cooperate. You're good.
Okay. So Steve actually has a good question. How does someone become a racetrack announcer? So maybe you could tell everyone a little bit about how you got to where you are right now.
Sure. Let me introduce this horse and we'll do that. Into the winner's circle, Miss T2 is a 3-year-old daughter of Into Mischief from Midnight Ballet by Midnight Loot, owned by Stoneway Farm, trained by Bill Mott with John Velasquez. The winner was bred in Kentucky by her owner. The time for the race, 108.39 seconds. Not yet official. Number 8, Palomita, was second. Number 6, Ocean Breeze, was third. And number 1, She Can't Sing, finished fourth. I grew up in upstate New York, a town called Scroon Lake, which is about an hour north of Saratoga. If you're a racing fan, right where Saratoga is, some of the best racing every summer. And I just fell in love with the game and was one of those kids that would come home and play horse racing all the time. And I would call the race. Next thing you know, I'm 12 years old. And sort of said to myself, this is a lot of fun. Maybe this is something I want to do. And I wrote a letter to Tom Durkin asking him, what does somebody have to do to become a track announcer? He wrote me back, said, study, work at it, go to school, all the typical advice. And I followed it. And here we are. 1 second. It's official. Coming up in the 5th race today, Brian Hernandez Jr. rides number 6, Scratch the 12 Piece Broker. Starts at pick 4. Post time in 29 minutes. And so, and it was just a lot of, I just called so many races as a kid, whether it be with toys when I was real young and then off the TV, pretending to like watch races live. Computer games, I used those a lot to call races. And I just called a lot of races, and probably thousands if you were to add them all up. And then caught a couple of lucky breaks here or there, went to auction school. Then was offered a job right out of college, and that was 2006, and now here we are.
Okay, there's a couple of people that want to know about what the funniest horse name or any horse names that you've called that made you laugh. Appropriate ones, of course.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of owners out there that have tried to slip some pretty rotten names by that are perfectly designed to flip up the announcer and cause trouble. I'm trying to think of names. I think the names that I've most enjoyed are the ones that actually sound good in a call. As an example, the horse Frosted in the 2015 Derby. That's just a cool name for a horse. He was gray. And you can have some fun with names like that. And Frosted is warming up type thing. This year's Derby, I think Tiz de Law is an awesome name for a horse. And as an announcer, there's a lot of fun you can have with that. So, but in terms of I'm trying to think of ones that made me laugh. Usually I don't laugh if they are hard to say. I do the other. But yeah.
Well, people are very impressed by you. And Joanne wants to know, does your voice have to be a certain pitch to be an announcer? Because your voice kind of changes when you...
Yeah, I mean, that's a matter of style or preference. It's, I will say that before big races, I do an exercise. It's a bing bong, and I actually learned it at auction school. So like when you're getting ready to call a race like the Derby, you make sure your mic's off and you go bing bong, and you want to try and start and talk down here. Whereas bing, if you start talking up here, there's really nowhere for your voice to go, and that just creates anxiety and tension. So I don't think, back in the day, when there were 50,000 fans at every single racetrack every single day, you needed a voice that would sort of permeate the crowd. You don't need that as much anymore. So, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, a couple of people want to know, do you bet on the races? I know we get this a lot.
Not on races that I call. I do enjoy gambling when I go to the track. I also think it's good as a race caller to know how to handicap a race and dissect a race that way. I do not bet races that I call, and that is the only bad thing about the Derby is I can no longer bet the Derby, which is the greatest betting race every year. But calling it's a good substitute.
So Dow wants to know, do you memorize each horse's name? I know you have that, your cheat sheet down there.
I do. I do. And it's funny, like once you memorize them, so I don't know if you can see it again, but I memorize the name to the silks. And then once they cross the wire, it's completely out of my mind. For whatever reason, my mind's been trained to easy come, easy go. And it's funny when you talk to other announcers, we're all the same. I don't remember people's names very well because in a weird way, I've trained my mind to forget as much as I've trained it to remember. So, but no, it's all about memorizing the names. Yeah.
This isn't a question, but I just like the comment because I agree. Todd Pierce says, super guy right here. Love hearing him call the races. Gives you as much energy on a $5,000 claimer as he does on a $3 million Derby. I agree.
Thanks, Todd. Send me the Venmo request.
Yeah. So with the stands being empty, people are kind of wanting to know, does that impact you at all? Do you like having the stands full when you're calling a race, or do you... it doesn't. Would obviously love to have people here. The one cool thing about Oaks and Derby is, as you guys can see, we are way up high, and these are glass windows. You can't hear outside very well. But in Oaks and Derby Day, the crowd gets so loud you can't hear it. That's always fun to hear. Even through my headset, I can hear it. But in terms of preparation and everything, no, nothing has changed. In fact, I've arguably put a little bit more time into this year's call. Probably because more people are going to be on their phones and stuff listening throughout the weekend. So it's a bummer. I mean, there's a lot less energy in the building. But hopefully this is the only time we have to do that. A couple people asking both, did you grow up with horses or do you own any horses yourself?
No, I did not grow up with horses. I think the last time I rode a horse was like an amusement park and a little pony ride when I was real young. So no, I've never had horses, never owned horses either. Never.
Stacy wants to know, do you use binoculars? I know you do, and they're extra specials.
Yeah, these are, they're called image stabilizers. They're by Canon. So if you were to, these are a 15 zoom. So if you were to just hold them as a human, your natural body tremors you would not be able to watch the horses. Your mind or your eyes would not be able to follow the shakes that your body has. These have what's called a stabilizer. So when I turn it on right before the race, it actually floats the image a little bit. And I mean, these are so powerful. I've seen things like horses' shoes flying off in the middle of races before. If the jockey drops its whip, I've seen that. And you can pick up on little things. As an example, when Justify ran in the Derby, there was many horses with those silks, and it was nerve-wracking. But Bob Baffert always wears his horses wear a blue shadow roll over their nose. And I can tell you exactly where, right to this day, when I looked at the binoculars and I could see that blue shadow roll as clear as day. And it just was confirmation that was indeed Justify, not somebody else on the lead, which would have been a disaster. So, yeah.
This is a good one from Off to the Races on YouTube. What if there are multiple horses with the same silks? For example, when Justify, Audible, and Noble Indy were in the same Kentucky Derby, how did you distinguish them?
Yeah, just like that example there, Justify the blue shadow roll. A lot of times they will put different color caps on them, which helps. There's been some years where all black and yellow silks, but one of the horses will wear white, one will wear black, one will wear a yellow cap. That helps. The other thing you have to do is just look for physical markings on the horse, white blaze, what color the horse is, or in a real pinch, the jockey. And an example there is Exaggerator, ran in the Kentucky Derby in 2016, I think, with Kent DeSormo. And the horse had very similar silks to another horse in the race called My Man Sam. And they were on the far turn, and the sun was hitting them. They just looked the same. But DeSormo has a very distinctive riding style. And so I noticed that, and so I said Exaggerator. Thank God it was right. But whatever little cues you can pick up on, you go with.
A couple of people asked me about where they can watch the Derby, so I'll quickly just say that. So today, you can watch racing on Fox Sports 2 from 11 a.m. to 2:30, and then from 3 to 6 will be on NBCSN for the Oaks. And then tomorrow, Fox Sports 2 from 11 to 2:30, and then at 2:30 we'll go on NBC for Derby coverage. So just a little caveat. Let's see. Have you ever called the wrong winner?
Yeah, I called this is a knock on wood moment. It's been a while. I was calling a race in Louisiana, and there was two horses in the race with white and red silks. And they very much so looked similar. And just off the turn, which is the hardest part to call, because when they come off the turn, they're coming straight at you, and you can't see nearly as much. I just flipped up their names, got them backward. Luckily for me there, I noticed it in the stretch, and I think I did something like, oh, that's such and such, sorry about that, or whatever. It was awful. And then, I'll bet you over this past few days of racing here at Churchill, I've probably mixed up a couple of horses here or there. It's very easy to do in the middle of a race. Sometimes you catch it, sometimes you don't, but so there's so much happening all at once. It's not hard to do. Some announcers have said we all make little mistakes throughout the day. It's just, does anybody notice them?
I know you said you don't wager on races that you call, but a couple of people asking who are your picks for, let's do Oaks and Derby.
Sure. So I think the Oaks is really hard this year because I think Gamine is by far the filly to beat. However, they're going a mile and eighth, and I don't know if she's going to be quite as fast going that far. To me, the way to play that race is to take some long shot closers, horses like Tempers Rising, maybe a little bit of She Dares the Devil, and Dream Marie to come on and get a little piece of a trifecta or superfecta. That'd be my thoughts in the Oaks. In the Derby, I do think Tiz DeLaw is going to win. If he doesn't win, I think Honor AP wins. Nothing clever there. But if you're playing trifectas and supers, three horses to think about are Enforceable Max Player and Attachment Rate. I think those are three live long shots to use underneath, and maybe a little Storm the Court if he's a good price.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, comment now. But I have one for you, Travis. What is your favorite race that someone else has called? Like a race that really kind of sticks with you from the call?
From the call, I think Smarty Jones, when he went for the Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown in 2004, I mean, that was a horse that completely captivated America. And there was 120,000 people at Belmont, and Tom Durkin had to call it. And I can't imagine there being any more pressure, and he was absolutely flawless in that call. So it'd probably be Smarty Jones. I mean, he obviously lost. And so you not only have to have a good call and describe what's happening, you have to keep your emotions in check for the fact that Smarty Jones had lost the race. So it would probably be that.
Okay, we'll do two more. One is from A Spades on Periscope and Twitter. What's your favorite horse ever? Not calling, just general.
My favorite horse would probably be, I've got a few. I mean, I was a big fan of Cigar. My first Breeders' Cup was when he won the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think one of the horses that captivated me was a horse named Dehair. He ran as a 2-year-old at Saratoga, and I was there for all of his Saratoga starts. He was really fast and just good. And then he went to run in the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita, and for whatever reason, this was my parents had just built their house, and so we didn't have cable. We were relying on an antenna, and the signal was not coming in. It was a complete snowed-out TV. But if you turned the volume up and you put your ear to the speaker, you could hear the audio of the broadcast in the background. And I remember sitting there all day long just to try and hear how DeHare was going to run. And then he lost. But I was a big fan of DeHare.
Okay, let's see. We'll go with Mary for the last one. She wants to know if it bothers you when you have people around you when you're calling the race, kind of like us right now.
No, not at all.
Or you prefer to be alone, or do you like people in here?
To be honest with you, it's I definitely don't mind being alone. This is a very lonely spot on the track. However, I love having people in the booth because this is like sort of inside baseball, and it's a spot that not a lot of people get to see. And so whenever there's the opportunity to have some guests to watch a race, I'm always fine with it. There have been days where I've never called one race alone. There's been somebody in the booth to watch a race every single day. And for a lot of people, it's a pretty special occasion, and they still talk about it when I see them years later. So no, I enjoy having people up here. It's a pretty cool view.
Okay, well, thanks, Travis. We'll actually be back live with Travis again tomorrow on Derby Day at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll talk a little bit more about how he preps for Derby specifically and the differences between Derby and a regular race, and some maybe get some picks from him too. But thanks everyone for watching, and thank you, Travis, for letting us invade your space.
Anytime.